This is Bourbon Bets, where bottles of bourbon are wagered over the power of arguments put forth by two idiots regarding their stupid opinions. Afterward, their pet android determines the winner will post a most scientific poll so the audience can decide. They also drink bourbon together.
And we're live.
Do we have to be?
Well, we're all live.
Do we have to be?
Currently, yes. All right, welcome to Bourbon Bets.
This is Blue Dolly.
And I'm Brimstone Deacon. And this is a very special episode. Sort of like those after-school specials.
This has been long anticipated by us, but not by anyone else on Earth.
This is the Chris Nolan movies show. And the idea here is that we will rank all 10 of Christopher Nolan's movies. And we will argue about every single one, I'm guessing, except for maybe one, if I had to really guess.
I don't think so. I think we'll argue about every single one.
We're not going to have one in the same slot? Could happen by chance.
Maybe we'll have one. I don't think it'll be the one that you think it is.
Okay. All right. So you were saying that this was a bad week to do your homework refresher on rewatching some of these to refresh your memory. Yeah,
just well, I mean, you know, some of the stuff that's been going on in my life here recently.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nolan's like emphasis on grief and how we deal with grief throughout nearly every film that he's done just was really crushing me. You know how things go. The worst one, of course, probably. Well, no, I don't want to talk about this now. Let's just do the list, and then maybe I'll talk about it when we get to the ones that really struck me.
Is this going to be a serious show?
I might cry.
Oof.
A little though. So
I won't edit that out. All right, here we go. In a particular order. Number 10. Insomnia.
Okay, so, first of all, you're totally wrong.
Oh.
But I have to say, I did put Following in at number 10, and I will admit, as I already have to you, I did not have time to get to Following because I, in revamping some of my knowledge about some of these films, got a little carried away and may have watched way too many of these films this last week.
Yeah, it might have happened to me as well.
Anyway, so I didn't get to it, but I've heard it's great.
Well, I'll disagree that it's not great, but
oh wow.
But we already started talking about this, but there is a listener warning here that we are going to spoil all of these movies.
Oh.
So if you haven't seen them, that's your fault, not mine.
Okay, so I have to note my objection now, and we can talk about it more later if you want to, because maybe we should go through the whole list and then go back through them and discuss them.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, you're really wrong on Insomnia.
So Insomnia, I don't know. Which way do you want to do it? Do you want to run through the whole list, or do you want me to defend every one of my picks?
No, let's run through the list. I think it'll be easier to do it that way.
Okay. So what did you have for 10? Following
for 10.
Okay, which you haven't seen, so
yes.
we'll hold that. We'll hold that against you.
N is NA, let's say.
Okay. All right, what do you got for 9?
9, of course, is, as I like to call it, Batman 3.
Yes.
Really? Same? Dang it.
That's correct.
That's the one that I thought we might actually agree on.
Yes.
And of course, that's Dark Knight Rises, I believe.
That is what it's called.
Yep. It might as well have been called Batman 3 because I didn't care.
It might as well be called what? Batman
3?
Oh, yeah, Batman 3.
Or unnamed Batman movie. That would have been fine, too.
The next Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I signed a contract to do 3 Batman movies.
I accidentally peaked on number 2.
All right. Number 8.
Number 8 is... no, you do yours first.
I have Following at number 8.
Okay, and I have Insomnia at number 8.
Okay, so, I mean...
So, I mean, I said you were terrible, but 6 higher. So,
all right, so I think we're in sync here for the most part, but I'll explain it Insomnia later. All right, number 7.
Right now,
I'm going to tell you the whole movie. No. I'll read you the Wikipedia plot summary. Number 7, Batman Begins.
Okay, so I was back and forth on 6 and 7, as I think I mentioned to you. 7, I have Inception.
Okay.
I know. You can't even hide your disappointment over the video. I wish the listeners could see.
I'm not disappointed because this is what spawned this entire episode was over this one movie, right? Because sure. Yep. I think that we all like or both like the rest of them generally. You despise this movie. We'll get to that. All right, what do you have for number 6?
No, you got to give yours.
Why do I have to go first on all these?
Okay, all right. Fine. Batman Begins, number 6.
Interesting. I have Dunkirk at 6.
What? Oh my goodness! All right. Yeah, we're gonna fight.
Yeah, because I had Batman Begins at 7.
I understand, but now you have Dunkirk in.
I have Dunkirk at 6. I had the wrong slot. I know. Okay. All right, number 5. I have Memento.
Oh my word! Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Okay.
That's proper placement. If we're agreeing on a couple of these, then that's pretty darn good.
We need to rethink our whole lives.
True. Good point.
All right, what do you got for 4?
Well, that means we're going to agree on number 4. Number 4 is The Prestige.
No, it's Inception.
What?
It's Inception.
What?
Yes, number 4 is Inception.
Wow, you really love The Prestige.
Number 3 is Interstellar.
No, wrong. Number 3 is Dunkirk.
I don't know about that. All right, what do you got at 2?
I have The Dark Knight at 2.
You have Dark Knight at 2. I have Prestige at 2. I do like the Prestige. All right.
I do too, but not.
I have Dark Knight at 1.
And I have Interstellar at 1.
Really? I'm happy about that, actually. Because a lot of people give me crap about Interstellar.
Oh, my goodness. Those
right.
people came in at my house the other day when I was watching that movie.
Those same people? The first time I watched it, we all watched it as a family. And they gave me nothing but crap the entire time. This movie's boring. It's so long. I don't want to watch it. Maybe I had already watched it. And I said, you got to watch this movie. That's what happened. Yeah, I had watched it already. And then I said, you got to watch this movie. And it was nothing but complaining the whole time.
Wow. Yeah, I can't. So I told Tuna Dan that I wanted him to watch that one. So I'm hoping I don't get the same reaction.
So one of my children, I think, liked it the first time. And since then, it grew on him. The rest of them, though, they still are like, no, that's a terrible movie.
I don't understand why anyone would think that's a terrible movie. That doesn't begin to make any sense.
Listen, there's no accounting for my children. All right, let's go back to number 10, though.
Okay.
So I have Insomnia, and the reason I have Insomnia at the last is because it could have been directed by anybody. The script is not great.
Okay.
It wasn't written. It's the only one of the 10 movies that was not written by Christopher Nolan.
Very true.
And
I would agree.
And it's formulaic. It's a cop drama. There's no twist. There's nothing. And it's called a psychological thriller. It's not even that psychological. I feel like we got Al Pacino and Robin Williams, and so we're going to make this movie, and that was it.
I can agree to some points of what you're saying. Of course, I ranked it at number 8, so I didn't profess my undying love for it.
What'd you like about it?
So what I would say is Nolan's ability to get the most out of actors is what stuns me. Now, Pacino has mailed in every movie for 35 years now. Well, I don't know. When did...
since you started talking since The Godfather. Is that what you meant to say?
I kind of wanted to say that, but I think he's probably had something that's decent since then.
Heat.
Yes, Heat, of course.
95.
Yeah. Well, and actually, you know what? In Heat, okay, this is, tangent.
By the way,
you know I love Michael Mann.
Click the link to go to the Michael Mann movie episode that we'll be recording at some point.
So I would say that Pacino is probably the worst actor in terms of performance. In
Heat, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he wasn't great in Insomnia, but that performance by Robin Williams. I
agree.
Dave, about Robin Williams and how wonderful he was in so many things. That was a completely different role. When they say things like Good Will Hunting. Oh, Good Will Hunting. Remember what he was? He wasn't that great in Good Will Hunting. It was an easy role.
No, this was
entirely a whole different level of Robin Williams than anyone had ever seen.
It was, but it's a little bit dark thinking back now because it was almost like he was just being himself.
Well, I hadn't even thought about it in those terms, but yeah, I mean.
All right, so that's why I put it.
But I would say that's what brought it up for me.
That does bring it. He did bring a lot to it, but still, I don't think it's better than any of the rest of us.
It's definitely better than unnamed Batman movie. I like that.
I don't know.
So let's talk about how that movie falls apart.
Okay, The Dark Knight Rises. You mean?
In thinking of all these together, I think I saw a different thing in here, or a more cohesive thing that I'd ever seen or thought about in the Nolan movies. And the whole idea of grief and how we deal with our grief is rife throughout all these movies. But what fell apart for me in Batman 3 or unnamed Batman film was that both of the villains, you couldn't believe anything about their grief. Bane was like, "Oh, I had to climb out of a hole in the ground." Grief, like it didn't make any sense. How does anyone connect to that, right?
So what I wrote was it was way too preachy, and all I got out of it was Occupy Wall Street, and the word decadent ringing around the whole time.
Exactly, and. There was nothing there.
There was nothing there.
You couldn't hold on to any part of that movie as saying, "Wow, this is."
The timing was all wrong in it too. There was like the great reveals were like all at the wrong times. Like it was just like everything was out of sync.
When you get to the end and you get the new Batman named and shown, and then the movie studios decide to go with somebody else, like it tells you everything you need to know to a certain degree. Yeah. And that's not any knock on Joseph Gordon. Well, I forget his last name.
Levitt.
Yeah,
Levitt.
Yeah.
But Nolan wrote this. I mean, he and his brother wrote this one.
Yep.
But it's not as good, by far, as the other one. So I mean, he doesn't really have anybody to blame. He had Hans Zimmer scoring it still.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's I guess 1 out of 10 ain't bad.
No, not at all. I mean, like you said, Insomnia could have been directed by anyone to a certain extent. I don't think Robin Williams could have been that good with anybody else. I'll argue that. But
Michael Mann.
But I will say that it had its merits, whereas I just don't see any. The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, agreed. So I would consider flipping those, other than the fact that I don't think anybody else could have directed Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight Rises is not like an awful movie. It's just we're comparing it to the other two. Like I'd rather watch Dark Knight Rises than pretty much any other Batman movie that not directed by Nolan.
Oh, see, that's I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I really loved Val Kilmer as Batman.
Oh no! Stop. All right, let's move on.
I agree.
All right.
I do have some nostalgia for the Michael Keaton Batman, merely because.
See, and I never got into the cartoon, like the comic booky ones, really.
Well, the only reason I really liked those movies, Keaton was okay, but
Danny DeVito.
No. The man, Jack Nicholson, as the Joker.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I thought he was great. All right. Anyway,
Number 8, I had Following there.
Yeah.
You had Insomnia. So Following, you haven't seen it. This is Nolan's very first full-length movie he made, I think, while he was still in film school. And it's all shot in black and white. And there's actually a Batman logo on one of the doors in the movie. One of the main character's doors.
Oh, that's perfect.
So I don't know if he's always been a Batman fan, but there's just enough. It's just interesting enough, just enough of a signature kind of Nolan twist to make it interesting. Not a great film, but interesting. So that's why I put it a little higher than Dark Knight Rises, because I don't think you would see any of the things coming that you see in Dark Knight Rises.
I got you. Yeah.
So,
I still plan on watching it.
And not bad for
Like,
your first crack at a full length movie, I would say.
Good.
All right.
I look forward to watching it. Like I said, anything Nolan, I will watch for sure.
Yep, and we're still waiting for Tenet, right?
Yes.
All right, number 7, I have Batman Begins.
And I very well could have had Batman Begins here, and that's fine. I don't really have an argument for or against Batman Begins at 6 or 7. However, I had Inception here, and it's fun. I have notes written down for all of the films, except for Inception, and that's the entire reason that I would say it belongs here is because the concept was okay. If someone else directed it, I would say, wow, okay, concept's great. For Nolan, it doesn't seem like. Okay, let me put it this way. I'll say it a little differently. Nolan, for me, is generally concept plus script.
Okay.
I want to hear some of the things that the characters in the film have to say. Like, they have things to say that are not just interesting, not just I'm missing words, but there's something compelling about them. There's something that we can learn from them. There's something that can be absorbed from the film, instructive.
So you don't like the characters in Inception?
So I never got to the point where I cared about the characters in Inception in any way, shape, or form.
See, and I think this is just part of the rest of his canon, so to speak, right? Where it's the same as some of his other movies. He's dealing with what is the nature of reality? Is there such a thing as objective reality? How can we know? That's really what this movie's about, not so much the characters.
I get it, but at the same time, you do see the same themes that you always see with Nolan coming up in the script. You see a character grieving over a wife to such a degree that his subconscious is inventing her in these parallel worlds that were being shown as we go through.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear the character breaking down, essentially, to himself, telling himself about how much he has missed his opportunity and trying to figure out whether or not the impossible choice, which is another typical Nolan theme, how that impossible choice played out in his life. There's nothing there. It's not compelling. It's not, and maybe part of it's that it's DiCaprio, because most of the time I don't care what he has.
All right. Who should he have cast instead of DiCaprio?
Oh, goodness. Well, switch the roles, and I would have been fine. Give it to Levitt.
Really?
Switch him. He would have been better. But the problem is that the character wasn't written well enough. Like, DiCaprio can do enough with a character. That's not generally a problem for him. I find him repugnant. But that's
like in real life.
Yeah, in general.
Yeah.
And
I think you're reading that into this a little bit because
no, I think some of that comes out in his characters.
I think that's part of this character. He's kind of repugnant.
Well, to a
Like,
certain...
he did this to his wife. He experimented on his wife.
I know. Right. And maybe that's why, I don't know, maybe that's why I didn't feel like he convinced me with his performance, was because he's already a slime ball. You know, I guess I wasn't expecting any more. And that's, you know, that's terrible for me to say. But.
You're muffled a little bit all of a sudden.
Good.
That's better. Turn that muffle filter off. All right.
I don't know. I have a lot of conflicted feelings about this one. I have watched the first half 3 times. And I've watched the second half once.
Just for this homework.
Literally, it took me 3 times to get through the film because I couldn't find anything there that
Where's the middle part that you stopped at?
Oh. So, the first time I stopped was when they, at the end of the first scenario, where they get caught and then they're contracted to go after the guy before he dies and his son takes over. To go after his son.
Okay.
So I stopped right there because I was like, oh, I already know.
So one thing he could have done better is have Pete Postlethwaite around longer, right?
Yes.
I agree with that.
There's a guy that generally, well, again though, it comes back to the script for me on this one, because where do you find the words for him to say that he's going to be able to use in a compelling way to draw you into the film better? And I think maybe it was just there's no way to do this. He knew he couldn't do this for 3 hours. No one was going to sit through it. But he also couldn't fit everything he wanted in the film in the length that it ended up. And it just...
You think it was 4 hours maybe? And he had to cut it? I would love to see a 4-hour Inception, honestly. Maybe it would be better.
I honestly think it might be better.
Yeah. So the studio is telling them nobody's going to sit through this.
They're not wrong.
I still really like it. I like that you don't know how it ends.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And that was actually a problem for me because I knew at the point where I turned it off the first time, I said, there's going to be no ending to this movie.
There is an ending.
Well, there is, but it's not really.
It's not really an ending. All right, let's move along. So that was number 7. All right, so I have Dunkirk at 6.
Nonsense.
And you have Batman Begins.
Yes.
And here's why. Dunkirk is a fantastic movie. I loved it. It's so different than all the rest that I had a hard time placing it. Because it's not the same, really, type of movie, right? It's a historical drama.
Okay. Yes and no.
Okay.
The reason I say that is because watching back through these films, and I guess we're talking about, for me, number 3, while you're talking about number 6 for you. The reason I say that is because in this one, the concept was there.
Mm-hmm.
The way he told the story was the concept, right?
But in some ways, he didn't make the story up. So it's a little less like... It's more like a historical drama, right? He took an existing story and he dramatized it. Correct.
Yeah, agreed. But all the themes, every single theme that he weaves in every other movie that he does, show up in Dunkirk in a very Chris Nolan way.
Regale us.
Well, how many times did someone have to make the impossible choice in this film?
Like every 3 seconds, it felt like.
Yeah. How much dialogue was there about grief? And actually, in this, because of some superior casting, and I'm not going to remember the guy's name. No, I do. Cillian Murphy. Destroyed me with his acting when he pushed the boy down the stairs and then finds out the boy's dead. All the grief and despair was there, and he didn't say a word.
I don't think that was the best part of that scene. The old man driving the boat is the best part of that.
Agreed, but what I'm saying is moment by moment, grief just compounded over and over and over and over. And you get to the climax of the grief, which is the guys in the train riding down the tracks, and people are walking up to the train and knocking on the window, and they won't look because they think they're going to get shamed. And instead, hope is offered, and beer is extended through the window. I mean,
as it always should be on trains.
I wish I had more train than I did. But the idea is that all the Nolan themes were there. The concept was solid, and the concept was told through the characters, not through what's the way to say it? The limited technology and everything else. He almost did the opposite of what he's done before in many ways.
Oh, I liked it. It was not. There's like no CG. I mean, there's obviously CGI, but it did not feel like that at all, right?
Right.
There was no. There were no special effects for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, none of the no sci-fi level.
Yeah.
Special effects. But what was amazing is I almost think that in a way this might have been the most honest of all the movies.
Well, again, though, he's not. he's...
No. I don't mean in terms of just telling a story that's historical. I mean in terms of him speaking through the film, talking about the things that he wants to talk about. Some of the most compelling feelings of grief, despair, hope, of the impossibility of making a choice whether you're going to run out of gas. You know, all these things, all of that was more brutally raw and honest as portrayed there. And no answers are given.
I was just going to say, he ended it like Inception. You don't know what happened to Tom Hardy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, he got captured. But
that's it.
Yeah.
So there's a little link there, and you like this one a lot. So you might want to rethink your life a little bit when it comes to Inception.
I'd also say the cinematography on Dunkirk is incredible.
Well, yeah, it is mind blowing, but I think that's again because it's not a sci-fi-ish movie, right? So it's all. What
I love is he can walk away from all those things that people have always criticized about him to a certain degree with, it's easier for him because he goes into realms that aren't explored. Therefore, now he's got an excuse for something not working or whatever. This, there were no outs. The story was the story, and it was, what can you get out of the performers with these characters, and how well can you convey what you're trying to get to the audience.
You do realize that we're going down a rabbit hole here where once we finish our list of directors, then the next Inception level is to go to editors and cinematographers.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. Well, we already have our favorite documentarian.
That's right.
Able to argue about that.
That's right. Don't tell anybody.
I'm not gonna.
All right. Where were we at? Number 6. This one to me could slide up and down, not down, up. It's just, again, for the type of movie, it's so different. So,
yeah.
What's that?
Watch it again.
Yeah, I will. I actually hadn't seen it until 2 weeks ago.
Strangely, I don't. This is the hardest one for me to try to share with other people, other than
Dunkirk?
Yeah, like, I can't imagine most of my family members having much interest in this at all.
Yeah.
I think it's very...
I did
very complex, very emotional.
I actually think it's one of my favorite war movies because it's not a glamorization of war movie. It's not it's not any of the things that most other war movies are.
The angst and the anxiety was clear,
and and if you noticed, it's still told out of sequence, like all of his movies, which probably helped with the anxiety.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that and the score for this, I even noticed that certain sounds would transfer over, where you'd go from a scene where there was an airplane to one where there's a train or something like that. And you would hear train sounds when you shouldn't be hearing train sounds. and it did a wonderful job of just disconcerting your mind while you're watching.
This is a mini rabbit hole, but is Christopher Nolan as successful as he is because of Hans Zimmer?
So same question, but Spielberg and
Williams.
Yeah.
I think there's. I don't think one requires the other, but I think there's something that amps it up.
Yes. Yeah.
Sure.
I think it to another level, but I mean, I think we'd still be talking about Nolan
if he had another great.
If you had, even if he just had another a decent score.
Yeah. Okay, that was 6.
I always wonder how the interaction there is between the guy writing the score and the director. I would be very curious to find out if, for some of the greater directors, if that relationship isn't emphasized more than with some of the lesser directors.
Oh, I think it has to be.
Zimmer
has done.
Is there a calculus there that can be done?
6. So he's done 6 of the 10 for him.
Yeah.
And the other 4 were done by the same guy.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So he's only ever had 2 guys score his movies.
Well, that's not surprising. He's kind of maybe a little bit of a control freak.
Maybe. But he made his first movie in '98, and that's the one that's just like a kind of mini movie.
Yeah.
So he's only been really doing this for 20 years.
I really enjoy that he's one of the first, in my mind, great filmmakers that his entire career is within my lifetime.
Yes.
I realized that today, I was like, or not today, but the last couple days. And I was just kind of blown away by that. Like, I was trying to think who else would fit within my lifetime. There's not a whole ton of them.
Michael Mann,
great.
Pretty close. But
yeah. But I don't remember.
But we didn't watch them growing up.
Right.
It's different. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, other than the following, it would be surprising that I didn't watch 6 out of the 10 just by happenstance.
Yeah, exactly.
We tanks